I am so excited to show you guys this edit that I did in Blender and Photoshop using the new software KitBash has released called Cargo. So they came up with this new software to where you don't have to have every single asset in a scene. You can just click it and it goes straight into your scene, and your computer is not bogged down by all the stuff, and you can create compositions really easily. Basically, I wanted to test out the new software, and initially I was gonna do like just something simple and normal, but once I started messing around with it, I think I tilted a tower. I was like, wait a minute, I kind of want to do like a surreal type edit here, because it's so easy to just move stuff around however I want it. And I knew I wanted to create some kind of portal with like kind of like a bridge, a floating bridge going into a portal. So that's what I went with in the composition. KitBash 3D has a really cool assets. I think some Marvel movies even use some of their assets. I believe it was like a Manhattan kit, and like in their Cargo software, they have all of their kits in it. So you can either buy it. I think you can get a pro. This is not sponsored, by the way, but I think you can get like a pro account, and they give out like monthly kits as well, and they have like 10,000 assets. It's crazy. Like, you just go in and make whatever you want to. It's definitely going to be a total game changer for me personally as a Photoshop artist, because like I don't do animation or anything like that, so it's perfect just to go in, build a composition easily, and put out some art relatively quickly. What the heck? Alright guys, so I kind of messed up a little bit, so I had to take a couple shots and Frankenstein it together a little bit, because my shots just weren't working for me, and I had just put everything up in my room and I didn't want to break out the camera again. So I just went ahead and Frankenstein my head onto my body to make a better pose for the image. But I also I usually use a pen tool for cutting out, but I had done something to where the file just like Photoshop just shut down. I have no idea what I did, but I didn't feel like doing the pen tool again. So I went ahead and just used a brush while listening to some music. For me personally, the pen tool is the most boring thing to do in all of the edit. So in order to combat my boredom a little bit, I just went ahead and just brushed out myself, because it's just more fun, even though it's a lot slower to do. So, and I was annoyed, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna paint. You know, I don't want to do the pen tool again. Alright, so now we're getting into the actual Photoshop edits. So here I use the pen tool to get a really precise selection of the portal, and make a selection from it, and I just add a new layer and fill it with black. So I do this because I can clip any photo to it, so I can mess around with the composition, I can see what looks good, and I can just clip photos to that black layer. Alright, so I use a smoke brush to add some atmosphere to the image. Also, I use just a dark color for the shadows, and I just painted in shadows beneath myself. Alright, so I wanted to paint some more lighting on myself, because I couldn't get exactly what I wanted when I was doing the shoot, just because my space was limited. So I used a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and I put that into colorize, and I used a blend if to take it out of the shadows just a little bit. Just continue to build the lighting situation onto myself. By the way, if you want to learn more how to do Photoshop, I have a Photoshop tutorial for beginners on my channel if you guys are interested in that. Alright, so I just continue to build on the composition, trying to make sure I have decent perspective. So I'm just trying to color match everything as well. I put in a background, and everything in an image needs to be consistent with the light source, and if it's outside, the light source is always the sky. It's really, really important. We're just making sure everything in the image is coherent and put together nicely. So in Blender, the time glitch sign was a little bit further away than it looks in the image. So I couldn't really get a nice glow on the light post. So I went ahead and just used a brush to kind of paint in more lighting. I wasn't super happy with the shadows on myself, so I went ahead and took a dark color from a shadow in the Blender scene and kind of just used a textured brush to paint a little bit more color and shadow to the image, especially on my face. Just didn't look like it was fitting in the scene for me personally, so I did that. I used a little bit of local dodge and burn just to clean up the shadows as much as I could. Personally, I love the bloom effect. So what I do is I use screen blending mode and a very soft brush just to paint on a bloom effect, because that's one of my favorite things. All right, so now for the portal, which is really, really fun for me. So I went through like a bunch of different images for the portal, and I finally just came up with an upside down city scene. I think it's somewhere in China, maybe. But yeah, it's a city somewhere in the world. But I thought it was pretty cool to kind of like put it upside down in the portal. And I used an image of a drop of water, and I put it in the screen blending mode. I duplicated it, and then I put the one beneath it into multiply blending mode, and I reduced the opacity on both of them, and it kind of made it transparent, but you can still see kind of a portal-like effect on it. So I knew I did want something in the foreground, so just kind of a go-to foreground thing for me is any kind of cloth. So I went with this red sheet. It just, the red complemented the rest of the coloring in the scene, and I thought it looked pretty good with in the foreground, and I just used a blur, a really, really high blur on it, just to create some depth of field. After I bring everything to completion in the composition, I always use camera raw to globally color grade the whole thing and just bring the image together. All right, so another global color grade that I like to do is use color balance adjustment layers, and I'll just double click on that and take it out of the shadows or the highlights. So I'll use two. On the first one, I'll go to the tab and put it into a shadow, and then I usually use blues for the shadows, and then I'll make another one, go into the highlights, and I usually use like a yellow and red and a little bit of magenta as well. And I just use blend if to take it out of the shadows or the highlights for each one. All right, we are wrapping up on the last part of the edit. And as always, I do a sharpen, and I also put noise across the whole image to bring it together. Sometimes, a lot of times in composites, everything has a different noise level. So if you put a noise on top of it, it looks great. I personally like the look a lot, so Yeah, I do that as well. All right, guys, thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. That's all I have for you guys. Have a good one.